I suppose I should start by, I'm going to spoil probably the line now for a few speakers coming up, to say that as a Corkman, it's great to be in Croke Park because we never get to come here, or we never get to play here. But however, given that the most prolific performer here recently was a country and western singer, it doesn't mean so much anymore to say that, I think so. In 1870, the American Scientific Journal wrote, "Now almost every considerable expanse of water will be traversed by the slender cords which bind continents and islands together and practically bring the human race into one great family." They were referring to an incredible transformation that had happened a few years previous to that in a tiny place called Valentia Island off the southwest coast of Ireland, when for the first time, the two continents were joined by one piece of copper wire, the transatlantic cable. It was an extraordinary transformative event. It essentially was a collision between technology and human endeavour, the desire for people to connect, to collaborate, in a time where people thought it wasn't possible to do such a thing. And as Professor Chris Moore, my colleague from Trinity College, has written about it, it really was the defeat of space and time. That what took 2 weeks to communicate, was now taking seconds to communicate. Going forward 150 years, March 2020, an Irishman, Mike Ryan, working for the WHO, said, "Be fast, have no regrets. If you need to be right before you move, you're never going to win." Of course, he was referring to the pandemic, which just about kicked off at that time. And again, though, the pandemic has been a great example of how digital technology has collided with human endeavour to enable us to communicate, to connect, to continue doing what we're doing. And it's great today to be back in person, but for 2 years, technology kept us all connected. So again, a great example of how technology, when applied, can have these transformative effects. And indeed, a great example, of course, is that remote working. We all know we work remotely. And the other thing that I like is that it's also created some new sort of sayings or catchphrases in the English language. Apologies, I was on mute. We're all familiar with that one. Where is the share button on Zoom? Sorry about that, Jane. And my favourite, I thought you were much taller. I'd like to say I'm concentrated, by the way. Or fun size is another one I like to use. So as we look to the future, we're going to see many more of those kind of collisions with technology. Unfortunately, we're seeing one at the moment in the war in Ukraine. It is very much dependent on technology in a very negative way. But also we're going to see collisions between artificial intelligence and human intelligence. We're seeing those already. We're going to see collisions between quantum computing and cybersecurity. And climate is going to also need collisions to sort some of the problems out that we currently see. And indeed, that's a particularly challenging one because technology in that space is both poacher and gamekeeper. However, in Trinity College, we're delighted to be able to take on many of these challenges. We're a research-intensive university, and we have many diverse topics, from neuroscience to nanoscience, from computer science to social science, and from cancer to the classics. In the 5 years to 2021, we've invested over $500 million in research. We've created 320 inventions. We've licensed 114 technologies. We spun out 24 companies, and that have gone on to invest over winning $150 million worth of investment. We're organised in 24 schools and seven institutes. I'm delighted to say today that we're here with the Learnovate Technology Centre, which is one of our most integrated centre in terms of industry engagement. Very, very, very strongly industry-led. It's 10 years in the running now, and it's now developed incredible depth of competence in this sector, with 20 professionals, and indeed is moving now into its next phase. And we're going to hear a lot about that today, I think, in some various presentations on the future of work and learning. And again, it's about collisions. It's a centre that is looking at the collisions of technology and learning and the human experience. So today, I'm delighted to open the conference. We're going to hear about resilience, inclusivity. We're going to hear about organisational learning and learning with AI. I'd like to take this opportunity, if I could, to congratulate Nessa and her team, not just for this conference and not just for the transformation technology that they work on, but as a team, having watched them work through the pandemic, how they transformed what they do as a team and how they've worked as a team, I think has been inspiring, and I think I really want to congratulate Nessa and her team for that. Also, I'd like to recognise my colleagues, Professor Anne Devitt, and colleagues from the School of Education in Trinity College. Again, these centres survive on the connections with our academic colleagues, and that that brain power, so to speak, that we have in the university. So I really want to recognise Anne for being a great partner. And without finishing, I would also like to just thank the IDA and the Enterprise Ireland, fantastic partners in what we do. Our sponsors, or many sponsors here today, and I couldn't, of course, stop without recognising our partners, you, the industry partners. The centre wouldn't be what it is without you, and what you get in, I hope you get much more out. So please do engage with us today and ongoing. So thank you very much.